Absolutely. Ron, no, Joycelyn,
Here.
Michael, Lori,
Here.
and Michelle. Okay, thank you.
All right. Next up, first up will be approving the agenda. Michael, would you like to make a motion to approve the agenda?
Yes, I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, and I guess I'll have to second.
Right.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, next on will be review of the proposed capital projects transfer and associated expenses.
Actually, you can approve the minutes for
Oh,
May.
the minutes, that's right, I'm
2020.
sorry. Thank
That's
you, I skipped right over that. We can
That's
go
okay.
ahead and approve the minutes from last year, May. Michael?
Yes, make a motion to approve the minutes for May 18th, 2020.
Thank you. That was quite a time in our existence. I'll second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained? No. All right. On to the next would be review of proposed capital projects, transfer and associated expenses.
Right. And so we'll go ahead and take that from you, and I'll talk a little bit about it, and then Brian can talk more in detail. So you have been involved in other committee meetings this month where we have talked about the fund balance situation. And one of the recommendations that the Finance Committee is going to make is to transfer what is equal to $1.25 million or $1.25 million from the fund balance to the capital projects fund with the purpose of addressing a couple of technology projects. And the goal behind this really was, there were a couple of things. There was one thing that we'd kind of identified, and another thing that became a little bit more clear through the pandemic. And so the feeling was is that it might make sense for us to use some of the undesignated fund balance to do these two projects, since we now had the opportunity. And so that's going to be the recommendation. But before we did this, our guess is that at some point, somebody from the board might say, did the technology committee weigh in on this or consider this transfer at all? And so that's the purpose of today's meeting, is to let members of the technology committee know a little bit more detail about this $1.25 million transfer and what it's to be used for. So Brian, can you talk a little bit more about the two projects?
Yeah. So we're the first one, the storage system update. About 6 years ago, we updated our storage system. It's being set up for end of life here in a couple of years, and so end of support. So we need to get a new storage system. This will replace. We do have storage here at our headquarters in our central facility for our servers, for files, everybody's files, that kind of stuff. And then we also have a disaster recovery site at the Smithville branch. And so this storage system update will cover both ends of that. So it will upgrade the central side, and it'll upgrade that side also. And it'll get us onto something that we can get support for, and those types of things. It is an upgrade in performance, obviously, because it's 6 years later. It's an upgrade in the space that we get to have to store things on. So it's all the way around. That's what it is. Most of our servers have been updated. Networking's all been updated as part of the capital plan already. So the storage is kind of one of the final pieces that we have to do. So that's that piece. Is there any questions about that piece?
Yes, Michael, I have just a quick question. So upgrading the storage, then what's the life of that update? How long will that last? Or
Okay.
can you say?
Well, so it depends on who we end up going with. We're bidding that out now. And honestly, I would have liked to have gotten a little bit longer out of the storage system that we had. Our current one is Nimble. And they were purchased by Hewlett Packard, and Hewlett Packard is the one that's phasing the product line out on us. So that's why that's happening to us. And we really love the Nimble stuff. We love it. It's been very good setup for us. But they really bought them just to buy the customers and do that kind of stuff. So, but normally, 5 to 6 years, we need to be looking anyway. So that's typically when so I would guess in a 5 to 6 year range, we'll be looking again. One of the things that we're doing if we have time, we can talk about it later, but as part of Office 365, we're getting a lot of our files out into the cloud and doing things like that. So we're hoping there'll be less storage here locally, but we still do have our servers and things that we host here that we still need storage for. So yeah, I'm hoping that, in 5 to 6 years, 5 to 7 years, somewhere in there is when we'll start kind of looking again. That's if I go back, we don't really have a replacement plan for replacing technology like PCs and servers. We tend to get quite a bit of life out of our stuff. And I think, but it always ends up being in that 5 to 7 year range anyway. So I think in sometime in that range, we'll be looking again anyway, because there'll be something new that can marry that physical storage versus cloud storage, which is kind of what we're looking at now. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't have any questions on that.
Okay. It's a pretty standard thing that, IT does all the time. We've got, I don't know how many physical servers we have in there now, but most of our stuff is virtualized. And the storage system is something that they can take care of replacing. So, pretty easy for them to do that. The other thing that we had on there was the, replacement of the existing self-checks. I think our oldest self-checks are at the Woodneath location, and they're 8 years old.
9 this summer.
9 years old now. The other ones are in that 7-year-old range, I think, somewhere in there, 6 to 7. And we can't upgrade them to the latest software. So they, the PCs in them just can't handle the latest software from Biblioteca, so we can't upgrade them and get some of their new features. And so I've been bugging Steve about at some point we probably need to be thinking about self-checks. So that's something we would like to do, is get on to some new self-checks. To be at the top of the mind, I will say this, the existing self-checks work great for just customer transactions. They, for a person that wants to walk up and just check a book out, or access their account, pay a fine, or do something like that, they work fantastic. We just can't leverage those screens to say, hey, if you like this book, maybe you'd like this book, or hey, here's an upcoming event that's coming up, or any of those types of things. We can't do any of that with those self-checks. So our first goal is to get new self-checks that will allow us to do those things, but the core functionality has to be just as easy for people to use. So that's one of the things we'd like to do, is just get on to some new self-checks. And this would replace all of them. We have about 100 self-checks out there, and add a couple for the new buildings that we'll be building at some point. So, yeah.
So 2 things to add about the self-checks. One is that all that stuff Brian's talking about, that sort of, I always like to equate it almost to the would you like fries with that approach to librarianship, where you check out the book and somebody's recommending something else to you. That technology all exists. It's just that our software and hardware is so old that we can't implement and execute that, number one. Number two, through the pandemic, we discovered, well, depending upon how you looked at it, our self-checks can account from anywhere between 60 to 70% of our throughput for an average branch. And so what that means is given a choice, and we purposefully design our libraries in this way so that we're not shoving you to the self-checks, but if you want to come to the service counter and get service, we'll serve you there, but you can also get service at the self-checks. And like I said, it's 60 to 70% of our activity organically essentially goes to those self-checks. And so we've discovered as we've opened up post-pandemic, again, people like serving themselves in some cases. It's just, for some folks who are a little more conscious or about interaction because maybe they haven't been fully vaccinated or whatever, they feel a little bit more comfortable using the self-check machine. So it seemed like a real win-win. The other thing that I want to bring to your attention, and we're not ready to make this recommendation yet, but if we do migrate to new self-check machines, the staff may recommend that we take a different approach to our fines and fees and possibly eliminate overdue fines. The reason that we would, now we wouldn't eliminate fees. So for example, if somebody damages a book or somebody doesn't bring a book back, we would still send a replacement fee a replacement bill. But the nickel overdue fines, we may be thinking, we're still kicking the tires on this. Brian and I are sort of doing the cost benefit analysis on this. But if you look at the amount of money that we're taking in, Joycelyn remembers this for many, many years. Michael, you may be interested to know, at one point, we used to take in $500,000 in overdue fines. And, $500,000 is real money. And so it makes sense for us to continue to try to collect that. But that number has continued to decline, in part because more and more people are using downloadables, which do not accrue fines. And people are just generally being a little bit more responsible about their returns. So our numbers have gone down. It's like high 200,000s. Again, it's real money, but it's cut almost in half in terms of what our fines and fees are, number one. And then number two, which is really important, is that the hardware to support something like that, the coin boxes and the credit card interfaces that we'd have to put on all the self-checks, as well as the overhead costs for us to count and do the accounting of all those fines and fees, in some cases comes pretty close to that $200,000 a year. And so, we're not gaining anything from doing it. And so and the revenue's only going down. So one of the things Brian and I are looking at is it might make sense for us to eliminate overdue fines when we replace the self-checks, essentially just because it's not cost effective for us to continue to collect them. So I just want to give you a heads up on that it's something that we are looking at.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's hard to believe, but the coin boxes and the credit card terminals are much more expensive than you would think they would be.
They should be.
Yeah, they are very expensive. And from Steve's point of view on our current self-checks, I can't speak to any new ones, but the coin machines that accept the bills and the coins, we spend a lot of time working on those. Our IT staff spends a lot of time working on those. That's of anything with this, everything works great on the self-checks with the exception of the coin machines, and they're 50-50 sometimes. So the vast majority of the support stuff is happening with those. So there's a time consuming factor to that on the IT staff also, maintaining all of that stuff. So.
From a patron perspective, we tap out at $1 per item anyway once it's returned. So all that we're doing to collect $1 per item is quite burdensome, I think, in a way.
Yeah. I mean, we would, like Steve said, we would still bill them if they lose an item or they damage, an item or something like that. That would still be happening. That wouldn't get cut off. But yeah, you're right. There's quite a bit of effort around just the staff just keeping the machines filled up with coins and getting the dollars out of there and that kind of stuff and making sure that it's working. So there is some staff effort involved. So.
Okay. I think it would also maybe encourage patrons to check children's books out more often, because those can add up quick when your kids want to out 50 books and
Yeah.
you want to incur fines to do so. So I think it could be a good effort in our literacy achievement goals as well.
I think the new self-checks too would be the touchscreen technology is much better. The screens are bigger and they're clearer. It's easier for people to read. A lot of these models we can get that we're looking at, they can be adjusted for ADA compliance. They can be built in separate configurations for us to do different things with. So they're a lot more user friendly now than they were with the ones that we had. So I think no matter what we end up with, it's going to be better for the customers in the end. So
Better experience.
yeah.
You read my mind, Brian. I was going to ask you about wheelchair accessibility, so you answered that question.
We had a demo the other day with a company that yeah, you can have the pedestal adjusted to whatever height you want. You can buy your own table standing version and you can put it on a table that can be used in that capacity. Some of them even had kids kiosks that are kiddo height, and you can get you can wrap them in your own colors if you want. There's a ton of stuff we can do with them now that we just can't do with the ones that we have. So yeah, I think they've come a long ways. But the main thing is the main core feature is we just want to make sure people can check a book out, check it in, access their account, and do those things. And it does that very well because the current ones do that very well. And so we don't want to lose that one piece just because we want something flashy. But I think we're in a good place on that.
Good.
Yeah. So I think that's the two main things.
And our primary goal for this presentation was just to give you an opportunity to ask questions. My feeling is when we meet tomorrow, someone might ask, has the technology committee been told about this transfer? And do you have anything that you'd like to add? And so we just wanted to make sure that there was an opportunity, staying true to our model, which is the committees, scrutinize what it is that we're considering and report back to the board. So
and Joyce, and I know you know this, but Michael, we probably haven't said this, but through the capital project fund, we've upgraded practically everything. We've upgraded or totally overhauled our Wi-Fi in some locations. All the networking gear, networking infrastructure and all the buildings, and this building included, have been completely upgraded to all brand new. All the public PCs, laptops, all those things are all brand new as we started into the capital plan. If you look at our budget and other things in our presentation, you might go, man, what are they doing? Well, a lot of it is coming out of the capital project fund, and we're doing it as we upgrade the branches as we go. And it's going to be sort of the same with these two projects also. So I just wanted to let you know that. So,
Thank you.
yep.
It's much more cost effective to do it while you're building and remodeling than doing it after.
It's a lot more time wise also because, the buildings are empty. We can go in and yank the old wiring out and all the old equipment out and put new in. And it's been much easier for us to do it that way. Plus it's just, everything is just so nice out there now, new and improved. And so, yeah, it's everything's just working much better. So we have time to spend on it. So.
Now, Brian, don't go calculate this, but my curiosity would be how many miles of cords and wiring have gone into all these buildings. It's probably would wrap around the world a few times.
It's a lot. It's a whole lot. Like the genealogy building, it had 6 or 7 miles of wiring in it.
Wow.
North Independence, when we refurbed it, was 7 or 8 miles of wiring. And you may go, why are you still wiring stuff in a wireless age? Well, your wireless isn't great at home, and it's not always great to run 100 devices off of in a building either. So, from a support standpoint, from a usability standpoint, we still hardwire everything that we can. Staff stations, public stations, printers, all of those types of things, because if we need to get to them remotely and work on them, or, we need to be able to get to them. And the same with the public. We want the customers to come in and the stuff just work. We don't want them to have a strange experience. And we do check out laptops in branch for them to use, and that does use the wireless. But we keep as much load off of our wireless for those services and for people that want to come in and use their own devices in branch. We just want to know that those wireless services will work when they come in. And we do put in some rather.
Oops. Did I lose your?
Brian, we just lost your audio.
Oh my gosh.
There you go.
We can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, I rebooted it.
Audio, not video.
Yeah, it looks like we've got audio and not video.
Okay, so we don't have video. So, okay.
I can see you all.
Yeah.
Really?
Really?
Yeah.
That's
It's
really
focused
weird.
on you, Steve.
Yeah, no, I can see the camera. It's
Okay.
Okay.
right on me.
Can't see that.
Okay, so I'll just leave this alone and we'll just keep going. So,
Okay.
and then I'll get with IT on that afterwards, but the thing rebooted on us.
Yeah, we definitely want to get that cleared up before tomorrow night. My guess is, Teresa and I were trying to figure out attendance for tomorrow night, and my guess is that it might only be a few people, but if all the snow comes that they're talking about, it might be just me. It might just be me and Teresa sitting here in the room. So we definitely want to make sure the Zooms are working.
Forgot about the snow.
So yeah, I mean, in terms of, to Brian's point, we were upgrading all of this stuff and we were working on all of it. The self-checks, honestly, when we made a priority, and it was a bigger priority to make sure that we were doing all those other things that Brian was talking about, because we knew we had a couple of years left in the self-checks, and we'd find a way once we finished up with the capital program. But this provided a good opportunity for us. So we've decided that's the reason why staff recommended that we use some of the funds for that purpose. So.
Yep.
Well, I think the push features are a good reason to just be able to say, hey, you've checked out these type of books. Would you like, because something else? Because not everybody uses the app or the online features to do so. So it would be nice for them to have that without feeling like they have to explain to somebody their preference of books, which is a tough thing for a patron to do. I think staff does a really good job of recommending, but I think people just come in, browse the shelves, check out, and go, can also get those services with this new checkout self-check feature. So I think that would be good too.
That's well stated, Joycelyn. That's exactly the thing. If we've got 60 to 70% of our people who are circumventing the desk, this still gives us an opportunity to engage with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. Did you need anything more on that?
No, it's like I said, the main goal is so that if it comes up tomorrow night, the technology committee can say, yes, we did talk about this and we had our questions answered, and carry on. I mean, that's the goal. So.
All right. All right, then, not needing a vote on that, let's go on to the review of the fiscal year budget for 21-22.
Yeah, and this is a little ahead of time. So what we'll want to do, we'll probably I'm hoping we'll have a very brief meeting of the technology committee next month where you all can actually make the recommendation to the full board on this. But without the personnel committee's report, which will happen tomorrow night, this report's a little premature. But Brian and I still thought while we had everybody on the phone, we could at least give you a heads up of what it is that we're looking at for the upcoming 21-22 budget, just so you could see it. And like I said, we'll review this again next month for an actual recommendation to the full board. So, Brian, do you want to run through that?
Yeah, it's super basic. So we have our, at the top of the slide there, we have our technology budget, which is the core technology budget that IT works from. This is basically just contracts for support, software support. Ton of them are that. Things like just miscellaneous PCs and laptops that people have requested, wiring, all those types of things all go in there. And this is aside from the capital project fund. It's all just miscellaneous stuff that we need to do kind of on the side. So that's really what the core technology budget is. Then we have the data, voice, and internet. You can see those numbers. We got kind of broke those up by what we use for the public, what we use for staff, and what we have for just branch connections. The way our network works is all of our branch network connections, internet connections all come back to headquarters here. And then we have one primary internet connection that everybody goes out on. So that's what those branch connections to HQ are. And then we just have a bunch of a few broadband connections for like the Blue Springs warehouse and other locations. And then we have just a lot of landlines. All of our security systems require a landline for backup. Elevators require them. We just have a lot of landlines still for those types of things around. I will say one thing on the branch connections to HQ and part of the public internet services. We do get E-rate money back on those. I know those are some very large dollar items, but we get about 55% back on those. And that's in the final budget that's listed in a separate line item.
The revenue line.
That's a revenue line that Quan does for us. So we do get about 55% of that back. We used to get it back on our cell phones and landlines and everything, but they cut all of that off. It's really just down to internet connections and wireless connections now. And that doesn't include our hotspots either. It just includes internet and fixed connections. But we do get some back on that, which is nice. And we do a system-wide average for E-rate funding that comes back to us. Some of our locations we could get 80 or 90%, and some of them are only 10%. So we just do a system-wide average on that. And then the last thing on the budget that we include when we do the final budget is just things that we spend for that we use on the website, that what we call the virtual branch. So it's all of our research databases under research and learning on the website. Downloadable audio and video books. These are like just that you download and listen to, and then ebooks and e-reference are in there also. So
technically, all the stuff that's there in virtual branch, if I remember correctly, is technically captured as part of our materials budget, the 22% that's part of materials.
Right.
But we always like to show this on this page so that if you were to try to figure out what is our entire technology investment, including the investment for the virtual branch, you can see that sort of grand total.
Right.
I had two questions. Our funding to maintain our data backup and all the security features, is that captured under branch connections to HQ? Is that kind of sprinkled over all of them?
Most of that's out of the core technology budget. So
okay, up above.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
Yeah, that's our backup software. All of our security software that we have on the PCs and servers, all that stuff is underneath the core technology budget.
Okay.
Yep.
The second quick question, kind of on this issue, but kind of not. Does the whole issue with Amazon and ebooks and Overdrive, is that going to affect our budget and how we manage our ebooks?
Probably, but I mean, it's hard to tell exactly what's going to happen. I mean, at this point, Penguin Random House has still been holding the line in terms of doing the same things that they were doing during the pandemic. The real question is going to be their Amazon and their Kindle application. They've decided to not allow library access for some of the Kindle items. The conversation that I've had with Steve Potash from Overdrive is that he's the CEO of Overdrive, and it's to me it's a little mind boggling, because this guy's probably one of the most, I feel like he's one of the most important people in the entire digital ebook community, and the guy takes my calls, so I feel fortunate. But Steve and I have talked about this on several occasions, and whether or not it might be time for Overdrive just to, accept the fact that Kindle and Amazon is a big player in this, but maybe it's time for us to move on and to do something different. Steve keeps saying that there's still too much of the activity that people are wanting to use the Kindle app in order to actually download and read content. Frankly, I'm not seeing it as much. I'm seeing people like just when I used to see people in airports and things like that, I would see them looking on the PDF reader, using the Libby app which is that's Overdrive's proprietary app, and things like that, and not really using the Kindle interface in order to do stuff. So, I mean, what I've been encouraging him to do is to make sure, when we first got into this market, it was critical that people be able to read ebooks using Kindles, whether it was the Kindle hardware or the Kindle software. I feel like we're getting close to a point where we may be able to diverge from that, where the fact that Amazon's not being a reliable partner, they're keeping our staff keeping our public from being able to get certain books, or keeping us from being able to buy certain licenses. And so it may be time for us to go it alone. But Steve tells me that we're a little premature to do that right now, but he's continuing to watch that option. And Brian, I know you read about this stuff. I don't know if you've got anything else to add.
No, that sums it up. So, I mean, Kindle's still a big player because they're cheap, but,
Right.
but if they're going to make it difficult for us, that's not what we want. We want our customers to be able to get access to the things they want to read. So,
Okay, well, thank you for answering that. Okay, I'm ready for you guys to go on. Okay, so we've got the budget. There's no voting item on here. Michael, did you have anything that you wanted to ask or need clarification or more information on?
Well, all the questions I had have already been asked and answered. So,
okay.
Yeah, great job, guys. Just searching through all this. Appreciate all of your efforts and everything. This is such a big field, and it affects so many things, everything really. So appreciate you guys diving into this stuff like you do. Yeah, I really appreciate it. Good job.
Well, I don't think that technology and access to technology and books and digital resources are going to wane once the pandemic's over. I think Pandora's out of the box, and we'll be investing more and more resources into this in the future as people become more and more comfortable with it. Anything from you guys on this topic, or can we go on to other business, which I don't know if we have any. Oops. Hello.
Sorry, Jocelyn, we just lost the boardroom.
Okay.
Yeah, it's weird. I'm not sure why we lost the boardroom, but we sure did. Brian's over there scratching his head, and
I'm sure he'll figure it out by tomorrow.
yeah, but sadly, between the two of us, we're losing what hair we have left. This is not good. But no, Michael, we heard what you were saying, and yeah, this definitely, I mean, it's a big part of how we provide services and how it's part of the conversation that we had on the tour. I mean, the fact that, yeah, I can hear. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, I think Ellie is on there. Ellie, you can hear okay, can't you?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Yep. Ellie's got it. Ellie's got it. So yeah, you know, it's so much of how we deliver services and how we're able to provide, you know, the Kansas City Star, we provide that digitally to people, and it provides great access. But if you don't have that infrastructure, you can't do it. And so focusing on that has been a big thing about what actually, you know, Brian's been doing his whole career, and I've been doing for a big chunk of my career here. And it seems to be working pretty well. So.
Great.
So what staff will do is between now and next month is we'll just refine this as we have an opportunity and you know, as the budget becomes a little bit more clear, and then we'll have an opportunity. I mean, technically you all could vote to recommend this, but my concern is that the numbers will change between now and next month.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
you'd have to vote again next month anyway. So we may as well just hold off.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be pretty close. Yeah. Yeah.
Do we have any other business?
Nothing from staff.
And if there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Okay, and I'll second, and thank you, everyone.